Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I am Dee, and today I have the beautiful Gina with me. We met through a podcasting group, and Gina is one of the co hosts of The Why of It All, which we're going to discuss in the next episode. But today we're just going to meet Gina on a more personal level. So, welcome, Gina. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me, Dee. I am so happy to be here. So excited.
Oh, you are very welcome. And as you know, Gina, I do have a completely organic podcast. So whatever comes up from your soul today for us to discuss is what kind of conversation we're going to have.
I love that. I love it. Let's just shoot off the hip.
Yes, absolutely. Let's
Mhm.
go. What's on your mind and your heart today, Gina?
Gosh, I think this week, and maybe it's coming to a head today. My co-host Melanie, which I'm sure you guys will meet eventually, started posting on our social media about the simple pleasures or simple joys. And she's made a couple of posts this week, and it's really inspired me to kind of get back to the simple pleasures, the simple joys. Before we started recording, I told you, Dee, what a simple joy it is for me to have my morning cup of coffee. Like it's like that first sip and it like hits my soul, right? And it's like brings me so much happiness. When I get home after work and I light my candles in my bathroom, in my bedroom, when I get my favorite cozy blanket. I don't know, I've just been reminded recently, and we've talked about it in episodes before on our podcast, but just about having so much or making so much joy out of simple things
Yes.
in your day-to-day life, right? It can be a smile from a stranger. It can be like the things that I mentioned. My co-host has a puppy that she's training, and just her puppy's, looking up at her, making sure she's being a good girl. Just, little things like that. Honestly, getting to know you, Dee, over the last week, and
Oh,
just
thank you,
yeah,
Gina.
creating this new, I consider already a friendship or like a, soul connection. I don't know. Those are just the things that come to mind when you're asking me what's on my heart today. I'm having a lot of gratitude
Mhm.
and wanting to be mindful every day of those simple pleasures and the things that don't have to cost anything,
Yes.
right? But that can create so much happiness and joy in our lives. So,
Mm. I love that so much, Gina. I truly do because I'm really big on this simple stuff too. And it's, we hear the term the little things a lot. And it's so interesting to me because aren't those actually big things? I mean, aren't they? If they bring us that amount of joy, then aren't
yeah,
they really big things?
yes, yes. And you're right. What a great way to reframe that, you know? Um, just the fact that I have a teenage boy. I don't know if anybody listening has teenage sons, but he's almost 15. He'll be 15 in a couple weeks. But the fact that he still will come and let me cuddle him in bed, still come after a shower and like lay with me, you know.
Oh,
Um, Picking him up last night from a little rock climbing place. We were jamming like old 90s music that he's into right now. And I'm just like, I've raised this boy right. Like he's listening to good music, like it's like, and so just the 15-minute drive home last night and jamming out with him and listening to Beastie Boys and Sugar Ray and things that just brought so much nostalgia to me. And, I turned it up really high and we just like jam out. And you're
yeah.
right. When I think about it, Dee, I feel like those are the things he's going to remember as an adult.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, I 100% do because I know my boys do because I did a lot of things. I was a very hands-on mom when my kids were growing up. Like
Mhm.
when I took them to the pool, I actually got in the pool and swam with them and played with them. You go to the pool and you see a lot of these moms, they're there with their hair done, their makeup's on, and oh my God, they wouldn't get in the water. They don't even want to be splashed. They don't even sit
Yeah.
close to splashed. And you're like, why? What? That to me, that's not, I mean, and I'm not trying to like come down on them, but to me, it was so important to me to have that interactive time with my kids. I took them
Mhm.
to the park and I got on the swings with them, or I pushed them on the swings, even when they were older. This isn't when they were just little bitty bitty guys. This is,
Yeah.
and I raised boys too. I raised two boys.
Two
And
boys. Okay.
yeah, and we would skate. I would put my skates on and skate with them. I did everything that they were
Yes.
doing so that we could have that time together. And as adults,
Mhm.
they told me they still remember those times when I did those things with them. And mom, you weren't like the other moms. You didn't just sit and watch us do those things. You did it.
Um,
So absolutely 100% he's going to remember that.
that is so affirming to me because I really do try. It's hard as a single mom that has a full-time job and podcasts on the side. I'm sure you understand, Dee. Like it's a full life that I live, which I'm grateful for. But sometimes during the week we're like strangers in the night. I pick him up. We've got scouts at 7. We've got football practice at 5 a.m. I mean, we're pretty much just like on schedule, and that's all we're doing. And so I do try to carve out little pockets, even if it's having a heartfelt conversation on the way home in the car,
Yes.
or just that little bit of connection before bed. We cooked together this week, which I'm not gonna lie, I am not a cook. I do not like to cook. I'll be honest. I don't. It's just never been a thing for me. Like I can do all kinds of other things. That's just not. It doesn't bring me pleasure or joy. But I know I have to feed my son and keep him alive, right? So,
That's going to be helpful. Yes, Gina.
but I made it a point. We went to the store. He wanted hamburgers and homemade French fries. We did it together on like Tuesday night of this week. And again, those are the things that he's going to remember is that mom, even though she doesn't like to cook, she made the effort.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that we're talking about this right now. I can tell you how to make homemade fries where they're crispy, by the way. That's something I
Please tell
recently
me.
learned, which is amazing. So,
Okay, give
so
me that tidbit whenever.
everyone is going to want to know this little trick. So it's absolutely amazing. So I'll tell you real quickly. So what you do is you cut your potatoes up into French fries. You get
Yep.
your pot of water boiling on the stove while you go ahead and line a cookie sheet with parchment paper.
Yes. Okay.
And then once the water's boiling, you put in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Not cornstarch,
Oh,
not cornstarch, baking soda.
baking
One
soda.
tablespoon, not teaspoon, tablespoon of baking soda into the boiling
Okay.
water. Take your fries that you've already cut up, put them in the boiling water with the baking soda, and let them cook for 4 minutes. Don't cook them longer because they will get mushy, right? You don't want them mushy. You
Oh,
just want to start getting a tiny bit soft. Then
four
you take them.
minutes.
I just pour them into a colander. Then you put them on the cookie sheet lined with
Yeah.
parchment paper, and you
Okay.
freeze. You want to separate them out a little bit from each other.
Sure. Yes.
Freeze them. The more frozen they are, the better this turns out. So then after they're all frozen, so you can make them ahead of time and put them in the freezer in a bag so you can cook them later if you want to. And
Okay.
then you fry them just like you would regular fries that you would buy frozen in the store. You just fry them and they are so good. They're so crispy. And then, you'll put your salt or like I like to put Tony's seasoning on there. And
That's what my son loves. He
yeah,
loves Tony. Yes.
yeah,
And we made them as well. You have to let them learn. Like we drizzled olive oil on them, but it was like way too much. So,
yeah,
only the ones on the sides were crispy. The rest of them were, like you said, but I've never heard of that trick, Dee,
yeah.
about
It's
freezing them.
yep,
Freezing them. Okay.
yep.
Okay. I can't.
Crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, just like the frozen fries you would buy in the store, except they're not processed.
I love that. And now, when you go put them in the oven do you bake them after you get them out of the,
No, I fry them in oil.
you fry them right with
Everybody's
oil?
so afraid of that, but if you're not eating stuff like this all the time, then you can get
Yeah.
away with it. frying them like normal.
Okay.
No, at least I feel that way. Like we get
Okay.
in our heads and we stress ourselves out about this stuff, Gina. And I really feel like it's more damaging to our bodies for us to stress about it than it is to actually just eat the damn food.
You're so right.
No,
We had this conversation the other night about how you love your hot chocolate, and and I had a rough day at work and I went and bought some cookies, and it's like, I kind of live by the 80-20 rule. It's like 80% of the time I eat pretty good. I keep in line, healthy fruits and vegetables and whatever. And then that 20% of the week, I want my popcorn. I want my candy. I want a Coke Zero. And those are the things that bring me joy, just like my morning coffee.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
I know. I'm like, I'm not giving up coffee. I'm as spiritual as the day is long. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up coffee.
I am not either. I'm not. So we're team coffee, D. We're team
Team
coffee.
coffee. Woo woo. And for the rest of the day, I drink water, and
Me too.
or I'll drink an herbal tea, but
Me too.
with local honey. Thank you very much.
Yes. D, you know what I just discovered recently? Have you ever had spearmint tea?
I have had spearmint tea with fresh spearmint from my own garden. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love
yeah,
spearmint tea. I don't
it's
know
so
the like the properties that are, if there's any good, I think it's good for you. And so I don't know what the properties are that make it good for you, but I just love spearmint tea. It's so good.
it is so good. But I would like to go back, Gina, to the fact that you said you didn't really enjoy cooking, because that is a very vulnerable thing for you to admit on a public broadcasted,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find so beautiful about this is I'm writing an ebook right now that we have discussed called The 12 Pillars of the Self-Love Journey. And
Yes.
the chapter I'm working on right now is about being authentic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
a part of you where you're being very authentic. You're owning it. This isn't something I enjoy doing, and it doesn't make you less. It doesn't. And I feel like it's so important for us to realize as humans that
Mm-hmm.
being our authentic selves, and regardless of what other people may look at us and see and share their freaking opinions, thank you very much, with us
Mm-hmm.
about, doesn't mean that we can't still be authentic and stand in our truth and still know that we are an awesome human being. So I love that you admitted that. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I love it so much.
And thank you for acknowledging that, because I will say, that is something that has, again, never been a real passion of mine. But, I don't know if I've shared with you, Dee, maybe a little bit, but I've been divorced for 12, 13 years almost. And when I was married, when you're coupled up, and me being a more of a traditional, I'd say, wife partner, I wanted to cook for my husband. I had three boys. I had four boys, including my husband. And so when I was in a marriage type scenario in my life for a period of time, I did cook. I did those things, but it was more of a chore. And I guess since I've been a single mom for so long, you get out of the routine, right? You're working long days, you get home, you don't want to, I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like cleaning up after cooking 5 nights a week.
Mhm.
It's the cooking, then the cleaning, and and so thank you for just acknowledging that it's almost like sometimes it, in the past, it's been embarrassing for me to admit that, because like, oh, am I not really a fully representation of a woman because I don't like to cook? Some people may have different opinions on that, but
Oh, yeah.
and I remember, it's funny you say this, because I remember when I was dating, after I got divorced and started dating again, I remember portraying myself in my 30s as somebody who liked to cook. I would meet a new guy. I'm being completely honest. I would meet a new guy. We'd start dating, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love cooking," because needed. I felt like I needed to be accepted,
Right. Those societal dictates.
right? And
Yeah.
so I remember not being as authentic in my 30s and maybe even early 40s, uh, around even just the cooking thing, right? And I do remember kind of like embellishing that part when really the truth is, at almost 50 years old, I still don't really like to cook. Do I do it? Yes, because I have a son and it's something that he enjoys doing. Do I want to work on it and get better at it? Sure. But I don't know if I'll ever find a lot of pleasure from
Yeah, you're never going to be that girl who's like, "Yay, I get to cook dinner." And it's
no.
funny. I do love cooking.
You
And
do?
yeah, I also enjoy being cooked for. Let me just put that out there as well, because
Mhm.
it's really nice to be able to allow someone else to, do that particular piece of things and enjoy a really great meal. And I always say, it's kind of funny, when I cook bacon, I'm like, why does bacon always taste better when someone else cooks it? Like, it just like, so I mean, like there are times when I really enjoy cooking and times when I'm happy to hand over that task to someone else to do, because it's kind of fun just to relax and then eat the food later.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you know, when I was younger, when I was in my mid 20s, I had a boyfriend. And I've had several boyfriends throughout my life that were good cooks. And so I, for, part of my relationships, long-term relationships growing up, I had men who loved to be in the kitchen. So, the deal was, hey, you cook, you love it. I'll clean.
Yeah,
I can clean a kitchen and I can clean a house like nobody's business. And I love cleaning. Now,
yeah,
I do take pride in that. I do love to keep a nice house, to keep very pristine floors and countertops and bathrooms and like so as that kind of chore for me is enjoyable. And
yeah,
so I guess it's just my my journey with cooking. I've just always had a lot of partners, male partners that were really good cooks.
yeah.
So hey, go for it. I'll pick up the dishes afterwards. I'll clean the kitchen. So
And that's a fair trade, right?
I feel like it is. It always kind of worked out for me. So the only time I really again got into cooking was when I was married for
Yeah,
5 years. Yeah,
yeah. And that was more of an obligatory thing
it
than actually
was.
doing it. Yeah,
It was. And we would cook together. He would grill and I would do the sides. And so it was something that we enjoyed doing together. But when you're single and you're raising a child kind of in your own household by yourself, it just for me it didn't become a priority. It wasn't a priority anymore. So
yeah. And also, when you're raising a child and they're involved in all of these other activities, sometimes it's hard to find the time that you can keep a schedule of cooking every night for, you and your son, because there's so much going on. I remember those days when
oh
my kids were younger and we were going all different directions and
oh oh
different things to do.
yes, so you understand, and we're in the thick of that because he's a ninth grader. He just started high school. We've got football, we've got Boy Scouts, we've got activities. So you're right, during the week finding those pockets of time, you have to be very strategic you know
Yeah,
so
yeah. And I
yeah.
feel like, since I'm kind of doing this self-love thing right now, everything about it is like marinating in my energy. And so I would like to say that I feel like the experiences that you are having with your son, the morning cuddles and or the after shower cuddles or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and the music and the cooking together, I feel like that's a form of self-care. I really do. I feel like you're giving yourself those moments, and your son, by extension, is experiencing those moments. And I really do feel like that's a kind of self-care. What do you feel about that, Gina?
100%. And after experiencing a very for the last I'd say 3.5 4 years on and off very abusive relationship, getting back to the self-care rituals that used to make me who I am, that used to fill me up, that used to give me a sense of self.
Hmm.
And I'm getting emotional because I'm sorry,
No, don't be
but
sorry. If I was closer to you, I'd give you a Kleenex, Gina. Let it out, girl.
when you're in an abusive relationship for a period of time, you forget your identity, right? Dee,
Yeah.
you lose your identity. You lose who the core of you is because you're so conditioned to put your feelings aside, to only focus on this one person, to be dismissed, to be disrespected, to be made to feel unimportant. And
Yes.
so you hit the nail on the head because getting back to the self-love rituals that fill me up, like the things that you mentioned and other things too that bring me joy, like journaling and doing my morning devotionals, a hot bubble bath with candles,
Mm.
you know, the rest that now I find to be so rejuvenating. And then also, like you said, being more focused on my son and really realizing that, you don't have much time with them. He's right. And so, at almost 15 years old, I mean, 3, 4 years, he's going to be out of the house
Oh, it goes by so fast.
so fast. And what is so important, and especially, and right, Dee, like these teenage years, those are so formative for them.
Yeah.
And so it it feels so good to be focused again on the things that really matter,
Yeah.
and to continue and to implement those self-care rituals more and more so that I can come back to me, so that
Yeah.
I can fill my cup, because it was so depleted for so long, and it, my sense of self was stripped for so long,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
And it enables you to put your best self forward for your son as well, And
Absolutely.
he needs you to be 100% you. He
Abs-
needs that so that you can show up for him and be, that confidant that he needs, that person he can lean on and not
Mhm.
feel so, you know,
Mhm.
minimized in yourself that you're not able to show up for him in that way when he really needs
Mhm.
you to be that for him, you know?
150%. I don't know if you resonate with this, Dee, but when you're in a situation that's not healthy or that's toxic or abusive, looking back, um, I found myself, you're really not yourself, right? Because you're a
Right.
constant in fight or flight. You're in constant, when's the next Jekyll and Hyde moment going to happen? When's the next
Yes.
fight going to happen? Right? And so, just in the people that are closest to me, like my son, my mother, my close friends, I, when you're in that cycle of abuse, I was more snappy. I was more right. Does that resonate? Like I
Yeah,
found myself
absolutely.
being less tolerant for people around me, even though they were doing nothing wrong. It was me that was
Hmm.
on a short fuse because I was so in such a state of constant, roller coaster,
Yeah.
constant fight or flight, constant just trying to survive the
Yes.
day. And it really did bleed out into my other close relationships.
Yeah.
And right, just more snappy, more, emotional, more um, sensitive, to things that really my normal self, my normal Gina wouldn't be so sensitive or um, upset with, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah. It makes complete sense to me because I've been in those abusive relationships too, as we discussed on your podcast recently when we recorded together. It's very difficult. It really
It's
truly is. I mean, it affects everything from your, relationship with your friends and family. You end up
Yep.
alienating them through
Yes.
this process. Your work
Hmm.
relationships suffer. I mean, it's unreal the impact that a toxic relationship has on your entire life.
150%. And it was, you know, when we went into interviewing you, was that last weekend, I didn't know that we connected on this. And so it was such, I think that's um what made us really connect was just the history that we've had in these abusive relationships and knowing what that feels like. And so it's like you have an instant bond with that person, you and me, because not everybody understands. If you haven't
Right.
been in a really abusive relationship, you don't get it. You don't, your friends on the outside can say, why didn't you just leave the first time? Or, God, why didn't you just get out? I mean, come on, that's makes logical sense. Like, there's no logic.
There's no logic at
No
all. And it
logic.
sounds so simple and it isn't. It
It's
isn't.
not.
There are so many things that factor into that. And when you transcend, and yes, I'm going to use the word transcend, that relationship, and you can fully step into yourself and move forward and never and love yourself in such a way, Gina, that you never look back on that in a way that you would go back into that kind of situation again.
Mhm.
You disallow people from disrespecting you. You can't control what they do, but you can 100% control whether you stand there and continue to take it. You know,
Right.
I've walked away from conversations. I've walked away from relationships with people, that I consider to be friends who disrespected me in some way because I'm just not going to tolerate that in my life anymore. I'm not
Mhm.
going to be rude to that person, but I'm not going to engage and I'm 100% going to leave it. I'm
Mhm.
100% going to leave it because guess what? I get to have respectful relationships. If you can't
Mhm.
respect me, then I have no time for that. I just don't have time for that.
And D, to me, that in itself is a form of self-love, is it not?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Having those firm boundaries, which I've always struggled with, having those firm boundaries with either a romantic partner, a friend, a whoever, could be a family member. Um, I think with holding yourself to the standard of, I will not stand for disrespect. I will not let somebody walk all over me. I will not let somebody talk down to me. That in itself, every time you show up for yourself, right, is a
Mhm.
form of self love.
Yeah.
It's a form of self care. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard when you've lost your sense of self and when you don't have the self love in place. It can be
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting you use that word because that's a word that I don't use.
Which
I
word?
hard. I remind myself about this because I feel like we set our and it's very common. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm super aware of the language we use right now. Like it's been so just brought to the forefront in my energy here recently.
Mhm.
I don't use the word hard because I feel like we set ourselves up when we use that word. Like, if it's
Mhm.
hard, are we going to want to put the effort into doing that thing, no matter what it is? Like cooking, like say this making homemade pizza is hard. It's so hard.
Mhm.
You say that to yourself a few times, and your son really wants homemade pizza, but you're like, but it's really hard. Are you going to want to put
Mhm.
the effort into making that homemade pizza? You've already convinced yourself that it's hard. So are you going to want to do it? No. So, what if we
Right.
shifted that word to it takes mindfulness and effort? Anything worth doing in our lives, worth having, worth being, is going to take an effort on our part. We're going to have to do something to get to that place, right? We're going to have to take some
Mhm.
kind of aligned action. So, if we can just shift that word to it takes effort and it takes mindfulness. You might have to think about it. You might have to remind yourself, but it's not
Mhm.
hard to remind ourselves. It isn't. We just have to take the time and put that energy towards it. And then that whole thing, that whole dynamic, that whole energy around it shifts. Then we're like, yeah, I'll do that. Mindfulness, I can do. Hard, I don't want to do, but mindfulness, I can do that, you know?
The one thing that has been so great talking to you over this last week, I'm just going to be really honest, is that even in most of our conversations off air, you have helped me reframe the way that I speak. I mean, there have been a few things that I've said, and not that they've been, it's not that you've ever made me feel like they were wrong, but you have helped me to reframe some of the things in my head that, you know, I can't remember. It was something this week that we talked about. I think it was saying that I was trauma bonded to this person. And I can't remember how I worded it, but it was in such a way that it put it in the present tense.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, you know what? You don't have to frame it like that. Maybe you were in the past. And you know what? I feel like, Dee, that's such a beautiful reminder for me. So
Mhm.
thank you, really, because how we talk to ourselves and how we talk about ourselves is everything,
Yes.
isn't it? Isn't it?
It's everything. Yes.
Everything. And so even just the small little word changes that you've talked about, even just this week, and just us being conversational and just, like, hey, it's really helped me grow in that area because I think I have work to do in that area, and just pivoting a little bit with my words and how I speak.
Mhm.
It's almost like talk to yourself or talk to yourself as if you're the person you've already become. Like if you see yourself as this, go ahead and start talking to yourself like that. I am
Yeah.
successful. I am free from a trauma bond. I encompass self-love. Start behave. If you start talking to yourself like that, right, Dee, you will behave. The actions will start to catch up with the words,
They will. They will. And it's very
right?
awkward in the beginning. When we first start practicing these things, it's very awkward and we find ourselves stumbling over it. And that's okay. Like that's okay because we're human and nothing is is fluid when we first begin doing it. If you can think of when you first started learning how to ride a bicycle, right?
Mhm,
How many
mhm.
times did you lose your balance? How many times did you fall over? How many times did you start off and your hands are going and your handlebars are like, and you're wobbling all over the place? And you
Yes.
kept doing it. You kept practicing it. You kept doing it until you could ride that bicycle and you were steady. And then you were able to go around the corners with no problem and you didn't wobble anymore. It was
Yeah.
comfortable, it felt good, and it felt natural. It's the same thing with this. We're going to be having those wobbles in the beginning. We're going to feel unsteady. We might fall over a little bit but with constant practice and bringing ourselves back and being able to center
Mhm,
ourselves, which is exactly what you do on that bicycle, right? You learn how to
mhm,
center yourself so that you're not wobbling one way or the other. You're very steady. And that's all
mhm,
it's just that constant practice to where we can center ourselves in this self-love thing and we're not wobbling to and fro anymore. We stand firm
mhm,
in our
mhm.
love for ourselves. And then that's when all of these things that we used to tolerate start falling away. And it's so beautiful.
So true. Dee, do you talk at all about in your 12 pillars of self-love, do you talk at all about the process of kind of rewiring the brain? Because, when you've been in a, a, a horrible relationship or whatever it may be, and you're trying to like retrain your brain, it is a process of creating new neural pathways and rewiring. It is, and it's like you said, it's continuing to do it over and over and over.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. So I love that you brought that up and asked that question. I do reiterate how much we need to practice and to give ourselves grace. I talk about giving grace a lot. I love the science behind things. I am not the scientist. I
Mhm.
love like referring if people feel like they need that scientific take on things. There
Mhm.
are people that I listen to who talk about those things, and I love referring people out to those people who do
Yes.
have, a more scientific approach to it. So I do
Sure.
it in my way, but I don't use the
Mhm.
scientific terms.
Mhm. Yeah. I just think like you said, giving
Mhm.
yourself grace. And one of the things that we talked about on an episode of just Melanie and I of our podcast was about um, baby steps. We just
Mhm.
talked about this, about how, just little by little, incorporating these little habits, or again, reframing the way you say things, pivoting just a little bit. It's all the little baby steps add up. They do add
Yeah.
up, right? To
Yeah.
something big. And I think for me, the baby steps takes the pressure off, because it's not like, okay, I've got to be completely healed by tomorrow. I've got to be, today I've got to do this, 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 and then I will feel accomplished. No, like maybe like for me, spending more time talking to God, maybe an extra 2 minutes that day is what's going to help me that day, you know?
Right.
Maybe me journaling a little more, that day is good. To me, it's just those little baby steps
Mhm.
that can, in the near future, make such a huge difference.
Mhm. Well, and they will. I saw a an illustration one time of a ladder. Well, with two ladders next to each other. And then we talk about the smaller steps that we can take. Well, the ladder on the left-hand side had the smaller steps. So it was very easy to see that you could step up and climb that ladder very easily. And the ladder on the right, the first rung was like 12 feet above the head of the little person
Oh,
sitting down. So, like, that's the big step, right? We're not going to be able to reach that big step without doing the little steps in between. So it was a great illustration to show just how important those smaller steps are. And they don't feel like small steps sometimes, Gina. Sometimes
right.
they do feel like they're big steps, and they are. And that's the thing, that self-love does for you is it helps you understand and give yourself credit for every move you make.
Yes.
You can go, I did that. Yesterday, I did this thing. I wrote, I am enough on my mirror. I did that.
Mhm.
That was a step.
Mhm.
And it's there now. And every time I go in my bathroom and I look in the mirror while I wash my hands, I'm going to see that. And I get to remind myself. And that's important that we give ourselves credit for all of those things that we do that incrementally bring us to that big step.
Mhm. You helped me do that this week. I wrote on a sticky, and it's in my purse. It might be it's not crumpled up, it might be folded, but I wrote on a purple sticky, I'm so proud of you, Gina. I love you so much. And do you know, that day you told me to go in the mirror, and I went in the mirror and I said those things to myself. And it's been a long time since I've done that. And I worked with a meditation coach a couple years ago that we did kind of the same thing. I had stickies on my mirror that said, "You are worthy, you are love," you know. But it was a beautiful, gentle reminder of how we should be talking to ourselves and
Yeah,
how healing that can be. Because, when I think about it, and this is probably getting way into the weeds of deep, but some people grow up with parents that don't say they're proud of them.
that's very
Some
true.
Right, some people, and I'm not saying I experienced that personally, but my father, God rest his soul, was not very emotionally available. Let's just say he was steady, he was stable. I knew he loved us. He was a hardworking man. He provided. He was a wonderful husband, wonderful father. But it wasn't until I was older, that I would get those cards. I'm so proud of you, Gina. I'm so proud, And so, being able to give myself and tell myself how proud I am, of myself, just that little reminder, Dee, was so precious to me. Just that little act. And it took me a minute. It took me a minute.
Right.
But I did
Impact.
it.
I'm so glad that helped you. And I'm so glad you followed through and did it because we do need to tell ourselves that. And I'm so proud of you that you told yourself you're proud of you.
I
That's
did.
amazing. Love that.
And I said, I love you so much because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
If you don't love yourself, you're not going to attract a partner that, if you're wanting to get that love from somebody else, it has to start with you. It just has to, because
Yes.
your energy, right? The energy that you give off into the universe is everything into what type of partner, right, you attract, or just people, right, in general.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to tell yourself that you love yourself and you're proud of yourself and you deserve everything this world has to offer, or you deserve better, you know, I just think we need to start making that normal, right, Dee, for people to have that positive self-talk to themselves. They don't have to wait for somebody else to tell them.
Right. That's right. We don't need that
Right.
external validation. It's always nice to have it. And I'm always reminded of one of my favorite people to listen to in the world, and that's Wayne Dyer. Even though he's crossed over and has been for quite some time now, I still love listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about how it's always nice to have that approval. Like he enjoyed people telling him how great he was for them, how much he helped them. And he enjoyed that. But he said, I don't need it. There's a difference in enjoying something and knowing you don't need to have that validation for yourself to still be this amazing human that you are. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have it. It does feel good though to get
Mm-hmm.
it. But
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line is, Gina, if we don't believe it about ourselves, then it doesn't matter how many people tell us they believe it about us. It doesn't have the impact.
Correct.
It just doesn't. It's like standing in the rain in a hail or in a hailstorm with an umbrella. And I've used this analogy before, and just pretend all of those hailstones are people's compliments. Just they're showering us with these compliments, and we've got that umbrella up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really feeling any of it because we don't believe it about ourselves,
Right. Right.
you know?
So true. It starts on the inside,
Yeah.
right? It's an
Yeah.
inside
And
job.
we can all get there. We can all get there if we just practice and do these little things that aren't
Mm-hmm.
so little,
Mm-hmm.
but that are such big needle movers.
Mm-hmm. They are. And I just think there is such a real need in this world for what you're doing with your book
Oh,
and with your self-love. No, there really, truly, there is such a need for it. And I just so happy that you came into my orbit and that.
I'm so happy too, Gina, because I feel like we're going to be great friends. And, the bottom line is I didn't create this and I didn't intend for us to be talking about my program, but I
Right.
didn't create this because of any other reason than I went through this.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the toxic relationships. I allowed myself to be disrespected. I allowed myself to be abused. I stayed there and allowed it to happen. I
Yep.
did
I did too.
multiple different relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing in the last one that I was in, the last really toxic relationship, because this relationship that I just recently got out of was not that. It wasn't an abusive
Mm-hmm.
relationship. He's
Right.
been very good to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the one prior to that, I needed to get out of it, and I didn't know how to begin. So
Mm-hmm.
I went to YouTube and I started listening to things and looking. I didn't have a clue what I was even looking for, Gina. I was
Yeah.
lost. I was so lost. And I
Mm-hmm.
just happened to manage somehow to type in the right words to get the right people to show up. And Wayne Dyer was one of those people. And
Wow.
so learning to love myself in real time and seeing it change my life in the way that I carry myself and in the way I interact with people and the way I do everything and the way everything is impacted by that love for myself. That's why I created this program, because I
Mhm.
saw what it did for me and I wanted to help other people. I want
Mhm.
to help other people reach that
Mhm.
unshakable self-love where they're like, no, you don't, I can't control what you do, but I'm not going to stand here. I'm not going to take that because you know what? I don't fucking have to.
No, no. And again, I resonate so much with that because we started our podcast was because we were two best friends that have been friends for, oh my God, 30 years now almost. And we would have these in-depth, like healing conversations over the phone. And one January Sunday afternoon, I'm like, you know what? The shit we're talking about could really help probably just one woman. Like, even if just one woman or man or whatever heard our conversations and how healing they were and how
Yeah.
therapeutic they were for just us lifing together as friends,
Yes.
let's get this out and have people listen, because if we can, like, change the way somebody views themselves, or maybe somebody resonates and says, God, I'm going through that too, I'm not alone, I don't feel alone, these girls are just doing the best they can, and we're all just doing the best we can. And so that's why we started it too, because we just thought, God, there's got to be something that we're talking about that could help somebody,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think when you go into it with that intention, and you stay very you keep that intention in the forefront always whenever
Mhm.
you're on a platform like this where anybody in the world can listen. I think that if you keep the initial intention true as to why you started wanting to come on YouTube, wanting to write your book, wanting to, podcast, I just feel like it's always going to be successful. And I don't say successful meaning monetarily. I just mean impacting somebody else that maybe
That's
needs,
right.
right? Because, I don't have a PhD in psychology. I do not have, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a, I'm a yoga instructor. I've got a 500-hour yoga, degree, but, and, I have a history of meditation and things like that, but I'm just sharing my story and
Yeah.
what's happened to me, and the things that have helped me. And if that helps somebody else, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and it is about having the experience. And that's what
Mhm.
I really encourage people to do is like do this thing and here's a guideline. You know what I mean? Like here's a guideline. Shift and change these things to fit you, who you are, what you enjoy, the time, the amount of time you have, and create that experience for yourself because I can tell you something all day long.
Right.
You don't have the experience, then you don't know how it feels.
Hmm.
It's like I hear the analogy of learning to swim. Well, I can explain to you all day long what it feels like, what the water is, the movements you need to make when you get in the water, but you're not going to know what swimming is at all until you get in the water and
Right.
you take your first stroke with your hands, or you just decide to, like tread water, whatever it is you want to do in there. You're not going
Hmm.
to know what that feels like until you're in the water yourself. So creating these experiences for yourself and making it what's tailoring it to what is fits your life and your needs and your likes and dislikes and all of those things. That's what it's about.
So true. 150%. And, everything we say may not resonate with everybody, and that's okay. Right? Like, that's okay. It resonates with Melanie and I, and, you know, um, we're really doing it as a therapeutic tool for us as well, just to have a record of it, right?
Yeah. And listening to someone else's conversations is really enlightening sometimes because, like you said, it does bring awareness to some of the things that are happening in your own life. And I love it. I really do. I love listening to podcasts. I can't tell you how many hours of YouTube I listen to.
Oh, I'm obsessed. Like, before I started my own podcast, I was already obsessed with podcasts. So, And my platform is Apple. It's just because it's just what I have an iPhone, just Apple has just always been my source. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, whatever, either your Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever, right?
Yeah, and you're going to find that the person or people who resonate with you the most. And I feel like that's really, really important for us to talk about. And you've mentioned that word a few times.
Hmm.
There's so many people out there. There's so many people who are podcasting. There are so many people who are doing healing work and bringing these important conversations to the world. There are so many people who are doing it. And I feel like it's really important for us to find someone we do resonate with. That is huge. If it's not me, please go find someone who does resonate with you. And I'm okay with that. Because I don't want to
Yes.
be a stumbling block for anyone. So if you're tripping up on what's going on over here on Eternal Soul Evolution, then please go find somewhere else that
Hmm.
does resonate with different people that have different energy, because
Yep.
we're not meant to be the answer for everyone, Gina. It's
No,
just true.
no. I have this saying, and it goes like, um, you could be the sweetest, juiciest, ripest peach in the patch, but some people don't like peaches.
That's
So
right.
if you don't like peaches, then okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's not a judgment on the peach that's so
right.
juicy and sweet. Okay, it's not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And like we said, I think for me, I believe in divine appointments.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I feel like people are brought in and out of my life for a reason, for a purpose, whether it's long term, short term, whether it's for a lesson or for love. I feel so divinely guided, and I love being tuned into that. And so I think if you follow that and be open to these divine appointments and
Yeah.
have the discernment to see them, and like I said, some people could hear our conversations and be like, that doesn't really fit me. Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
right?
It is okay.
So anyway.
And I do believe in divine appointments too. I feel like things come into our lives exactly when they're supposed to, and the way that they're supposed to, with the person that is
Mhm.
supposed to be there for that particular thing. And, I
Mhm.
was just talking to Steve the other day, and I told him, people come in for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I haven't
Right.
had very many lifetime people. And,
Hmm.
and then it's funny because I just listened to this video with Wayne Dyer talking about how we don't need anyone else. Truly, it's a lone journey. And
Hmm.
that doesn't mean we're always going to be alone. That's not what that means. But it means that we're meant to travel this particular path, and
Hmm.
sometimes we're not going to feel like we have the support we need. We
Hmm.
think we need that
Hmm.
external validation that we were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
and we need to learn to give that to ourselves. And I have had that experience, actually, Gina. I don't know if you have, where I have had days where I feel like I really need to talk to someone. Like I'm
Hmm.
having this issue that I'm working through, and I really feel like I need to talk to someone, and like nobody is available. Like every friend I call doesn't answer their texts, they don't answer their phone, they don't call me back, nothing is
Hmm.
happening. So I'm like, oh, like what am I supposed to do? How
Hmm.
am I going to get through this? Well, it's the universe showing us that we have the capability of getting through it ourselves. And one of my mentors, way back at the beginning of my spiritual journey, told me the answer's inside you, Dee. And people that have been listening to my podcast for a while have heard me talk about him before. His name is Dave. And he used to always tell me that. And I used to get really mad at him and tell him, well, tell me what organ it's hiding behind because I can't find it. Where is it? Oh my gosh, I moved my liver around and all that.
Hmm.
I can't find it anywhere. But the truth of the matter is the answer is inside us. And we can always ask for divine help. I
Yes.
had this conversation with a lady recently in one of my podcast episodes, and she brought that up. We can ask for help. And it's something that I didn't do for most of my life until,
Hmm.
recently, within the last 2 years, actually. And
Hmm.
so we can ask our guides, angels, God,
Hmm.
universe, whatever
Hmm.
you want to call it, we
Hmm.
can ask for help. And it's super beneficial.
And I think, Dee, and tell me if you agree with this, but I think uh, us as a society, I mean, it's natural for us to crave connection, right? It is a natural condition. It's the human condition to crave connection, relationships. It's one of the reasons we're here, right? But
Yes.
I think that getting comfortable being alone and
Mhm.
getting comfortable being quiet, and it's easier said than done. I'm not saying, and I've had the same experiences like you, where it's like on a Sunday and like my phone just is silent. Nobody's calling me, nobody's checking in. It's just me, myself, and I. And the more comfortable I've gotten being alone and appreciating those alone times and loving my own company,
Yeah.
you can sit still and you can get quiet and the answers will come. That's why I feel like meditation can be such a healthy tool,
Yes.
right? And the visualization and just sitting back and being quiet. And the answers will come. You just have to be quiet long enough. And we are in such a society of distraction, right?
Mm.
We've got our phones, we've got our TVs, we've got social media, we've got the news, we've got so many distractions, right?
Yeah.
And we're conditioned. It's just the era we live in right now. I mean, when we were young, D, we didn't have phones. We
That's right. Well,
we
we had one with a cord.
yes, and we had our bicycles, and we had a TV that maybe had 13 channels on it. We didn't have
Yeah.
computers back then. I mean, we were fine. I mean, I had a great childhood without all of the common electronics that we have. But
Yes.
this is the world we live in, and so I think, a couple of months ago, I this is just coming up because I met somebody in a town close by to spend the weekend with them. And both of us really wanted to just check out of our phones for the weekend. And we did. And we just spent quality time and we swam and we had dinner and we listened to records. And, when that person left and they had to fly out, the next day, it was almost like I missed it took me a while to get back into like getting on my phone again and getting back with all that stimulation. It's nice to take a little break sometimes from, right? From,
Right.
from
Technology.
just technology. Yeah. And so I've done this before. So after that meeting with that person that I hung out with for the weekend, it really inspired me to just like take a day a week. And I'm not consistent with it, but I have done it a couple of times since I think that was July. But just one day a week,
Yeah.
like just do not disturb, and it's a nice, healthy habit, I think, for anybody to get into to start coming back to the things we were talking about the answers are here. We can
Yeah.
just, right, get quiet enough and be still. Um, they will come. And so,
Yeah.
but putting those little practices into place, I feel like sometimes can be helpful to aid us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Well, Gina, we've been chatting for a little while now, so I
Yes.
don't make this episode too long. So before we close out for today, do you have any last words of wisdom you would like to share with our listeners?
Mm, wow, words of wisdom. Um, I would say if it's what's on my heart right now is I think just um, it's how we started this whole thing, being authentic, just being yourself. Be yourself. And I think that everything else will fall into place. And be vulnerable with the people that you're surrounded with.
Yeah.
and just be yourself.
Yeah. Because you're awesome. That's why.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yes, that's a great closing remark. I love it so much, Gina. And thank you again for being my guest today. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. I know there are
Me
going to be
too.
more than one person, or is going to be more than one person out there who finds this extremely helpful. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for being so vulnerable and open with
Mhm.
us today. I really
Mhm.
appreciate you.
And I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Yay. Thank you so much. Don't go away. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode. I know we went deep and Gina was very vulnerable, which I'm super grateful for. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am going to drop all of Gina's link for her podcast in the description box below the video, so y'all can check that out. And then next week, we will be talking with Gina and Melanie about the Why of It All podcast. So look
Mhm.
forward to that. So until next time, I love you all.